Hi folks, welcome back to How to CAD Almost Anything MIT IAP 2026. Today we are in session 5 and this is perhaps my favorite session of all of them because we're going to be working with Lego bricks. As you can see in the screen right now, we'll be building a 2x4 brick, but also we'll work with a 2x2, we'll do a 2x3, pretty much any Lego brick that you can imagine, so that then we can use these bricks to learn how to make assemblies, pretty much Lego structures like the ones that you would buy in a store. And then we're going to use one of these bricks, namely the 2x4, to also learn how to make an engineering drawing where you can see all of the different specifications. Essentially, a piece of paper that you would give somebody to actually manufacture this brick. So let's go ahead and get started. Here, so our agenda from today is really to go over Inventor's commands, which are really going to involve how to build assemblies, pretty much how to bring multiple parts. Right now, we've only focused on building individual parts, but we haven't interacted with them together in the same environment. So we're gonna learn how to do that with Lego bricks. I think that's gonna be quite educational. And then we're gonna do a Lego tower bridge assembly. I think it looks quite interesting, might be a little bit complex, but it's a lot of fun. I like to think that if you only have access to Inventor and you don't have enough money to buy Lego bricks, because nowadays they're a little bit expensive, at least you can kind of play with Legos virtually by building your own here in this environment. And then we're also going to make an engineering drawing out of these bricks. So last time we worked with the banana and the PlayStation controller. These were pretty complex objects, especially because of the curvature and essentially the ingenuity that they required in order to build them. Meanwhile, today, these bricks are very easy to make. In fact, making the Lego brick is going to be quite simple. Perhaps something that we haven't encountered yet is how to follow the design specs from an engineering drawing that pretty much defines every single dimension on that brick. Otherwise, I don't think on the design side it's going to be difficult. More the new stuff is going to come on making something like this tower bridge assembly. So let's go to Inventor. Alrighty, so I'm here in Inventor, and what I'm gonna do is pull up here Chrome, and what you can see is this thing which is an engineering drawing. The one I'm showing you right here is from How to CAD Siemens NX, which was the How to CAD session that was taught last IAP in 2025. And eventually we're gonna make something that looks like this engineering drawing. But if you never encountered an engineering drawing, this is how it looks like. So you have, well, the object that it's trying to portray the dimensions of, and then multiple views, a top view, a side view, a bottom view, and another one of the side views. And it's giving us all of the different dimensions. I've done Lego bricks already many times before, so I kind of know all of these by heart by this point. But in essence, what we're gonna do is a brick that it's telling us one of the sides is 16, one of the other sides is 32, so it's about a 2:1 aspect ratio. Then at a distance of 4, you have one of these little protrusion cylinders in there, and you can see that all of these edges all around them have fillets. I think that should be noted somewhere. Um, I don't even know whether I don't think I'm even making notice of that in here, but it's good to have it. And here, you can see it says top view, side view, section view in there. And then you have like holes on the bottom, then you have like those pieces in there. By the way, this version of the Lego brick is a little bit more simple, the one that I'm showing you here, because normally there's like a little bar that goes in the middle. However, one thing I'll mention is that the more details that you add, for instance, those fillets, which I think I might avoid in our design of our Lego brick, the more difficult and more loaded the assembly is going to be, because you're going to have maybe 100 of these bricks and it's going to take a long time to load. So maybe I'm going to keep it very simple to just the 8 cylinders, like the cylinders that go beneath it, and those three right there. So let's do it. So let's go here to Inventor. I'll go here to New Part, because this is a part. And I'll go here to Sketch, XY plane. And this is because the units in here, I think it's explicit. It says somewhere that, does it say all units are in millimeters? Mm, yes, all units are in millimeters in nodes. So I already know. All right, wow, it's been about a year since we've done that. That is crazy. So I'm gonna go here to tools and yes, document settings, units, millimeters and then grams. And I'll say, okay, we'll go here to sketch, rectangle, and we're gonna start by making this one be 32, and we're gonna make this one 16. And we're gonna here to extrude, and as for the initial height that we're gonna give this, it says 9.6. So let's do that. I'm gonna go for 9.6. Good. And these are actually like, if I'm not mistaken, these are pretty representative of the actual Lego brick dimensions. So it's something good to know. Um, then something that I'll mention right now is that I can go here. There's a command that's called shell. And if I click, for instance, on this face as an example, what it does is that I can define a thickness of 1 and essentially creates a shell out of this body. And this is quite important whenever you're working with Lego bricks in here. Because, well, you have it's a pretty much hollow all the way in the inside. And then you can define those circles in there. So that's something perhaps to consider. I might leave it like this. How much, well, the wall thickness is 1.2. So it creates a uniform wall thickness of 1.2. So I'll leave it like that, and voila, very easily you have a hollow box instead of having to do really another extruded box all the way there. At least this guarantees that the wall thickness in that area right there is also 1.2. And just a rule of thumb, as perhaps as a side note, is that whenever you're doing design for manufacturing, especially for things that are going to be injected molded like a Lego brick, you always want to do something that has uniform wall thickness. If you do non-uniform wall thickness, I think you're messing up some of the quality of the parts. Another thing that I'm not doing here is that this is a straight object. However, the reality is that I would go here to edit feature, and you see where it says taper. I could give it like a 1 degree taper, maybe like -1 degree. So you see it's like slightly tapered inward. And that is useful. I'm not gonna leave it like this, but this is just a technicality because whenever you're injecting the little piece out of the mold, it's easier if the walls are slightly angled. That's also called draft, which is something that we've used when we were doing the Type A 101 earlier on. But I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna leave that like that. We go here to sketch. And then we are gonna draw 2 lines. Let's go like that. I'm gonna make these 2 construction lines. And we are told that that little cylinder is at 4 and 4 from that edge. So I'm gonna go here to D. We're gonna make that 4. And if I find the other one, we're gonna make that 4. Now you see everything moved because I need to constrain that to be on the edge. So let's do that there. And then I'll draw a circle. That's gonna be, it says the dimension of the circle is 4.8. That's what it means. So I'm gonna go to D, 4.8. Good. And the height of this circle is gonna be, I think I can see it on the side view, it's also 1.2. Good. And then the Lego extrusion is 0.1. Okay, we're gonna add that in a second. So that's 1.2. Good. I wonder whether we specified the Lego font type somewhere. Oh, there is the uniform fillets. They're shown. Maybe what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna do 2 versions of the Lego brick. One that has the fillets, one that doesn't. That way we have one that we'll use for the drawing that has the fillets, but the actual one that we'll use on the assembly won't. Um, I'll think about it for a second, but at least put one and then yeah, the pocket I know the wall thickness will do that in a second. But there's nothing about the font. Oh, Calibri. Okay, and you standardize the line text. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is another sketch right here, and I'll do a little line that's gonna go like that. We're gonna make that a construction line. We can even specify like that another construction line. Say that's one. Let me see something about the Lego. Okay, so it says 0.45. So I think I'm gonna do 0.45 like that. And then I go here to geometry text. We're gonna write Lego. Does it say anything about the font size? No, just Calibri font, but nothing about the size of the font. That's what I can tell. That's something good. These are all mental notes for when we do the drawing again. You always can discover things that could be done better. That's Lego. Let's look for Calibri. There we go. Okay, so this looks pretty appropriate, but it's obviously too large. So we need to bring the scale of this to 0.05. Let's see. Oh, okay, so that's pretty good already. Maybe I might make that 0.6 a little bit downwards. Just maybe slightly less, 0.65. There we go. Okay, I like that. And then we said that it was this extrusion is no, there we go. Ready to finish. Yeah, gonna extrude. There we go. We'll do 0.1, just like that. Okay. Is that the height? Yes, 0.1 Lego extrusion. So we have that okay. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here to this side. I'll do a sketch. And perhaps to know what the location of that circle is, I can do a quick project geometry of that circle down there. And this guy, there we go, make it a construction. And I'll draw another tiny circle that we are told is, where are you, little circle beneath? Yes, zero point 0.8 pattern, no, 0.6, 1.2 uniform thickness, 4.8. I have a feeling that if it is a 1.2 uniform thickness, then that has to be 1.2 as well. Just as a hunch. So then what I want to do is that, so if that is 1.2, then, and that is also brought up by 1.2, then we're gonna do an extrude cut that is also 1.2. Just like that. I'll say okay. Good. So we're gonna leave it like that. And there's a reason why I'm doing things in this order, because here's where the magic happens. The magic happens right now. Because I go here to rectangular pattern. And well, actually, one of the things, if this is gonna be the brick that we'll use for our assembly, this is a, let's say, a low fidelity version of our brick. Because I go here to rectangular pattern and I say select features. I select, say, these three. And then for one of our directions, we'll go for this. And I want to flip the direction. We're going to make that 8 and we're going to make that 4. I already know that the distance is, we're told it's a regular spacing of 8 millimeters by brick. The same thing downstairs. So we'll do that. And then on another direction, which is going to be that one. Let's see if it allows me to select. There we go. We are going to also do 8. I will click on OK. That's how you very easily have a brick like this one. In fact, next session, session 6, we're going to learn how to very easily do something that we're going to do in just a second, which is how do you create multiple versions of the same brick. And it's essentially by using math and leveraging very cleverly this rectangular pattern feature right here. You see down there, okay, it's showing appropriately that stuff, but that's our base brick right there. So that's good. Um, Yes, if we had wanted to add the fillets, we would have done them before we had done the patterning. That way, the fillets would have patterned as well. But for now, we're gonna leave this like this because I don't want to explode the model with a lot of details. But and I'm gonna go now over here, and we know that that's our base. Say, oh, that's our base brick. So what I'm gonna do is go here to sketch. Uh, I think I was in here. So let's do edit sketch right there. I'm gonna draw two lines. Not necessarily, there we go. Like, I don't want them to be aligned in any particular way. That way, this scales nicely, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. I'm gonna make that and that perpendicular, then that and that perpendicular, and then these two guys are gonna be equal as well. And we know that the location is 8 as well, of that circle right there. And it's a circle that is big. How big are you? It's zero point 0.6. Okay. Yes. Um, Let me see. But I'm not sure I'm being told how big the circle is. Yes, it's a free pattern right there. 1.2. Yeah, 8.4, I know. You see, I'm coming to realize this is funny. Whenever you look at old drawings that you've drawn, that some details are missing, and in this case, I do not know how thick that circle is. In fact, I believe it's like 6.4. But we'll play it by ear. So we know that at least that's supposed to be 8. Oh, actually no. So that's supposed to be 8 minus 1.2, which is gonna be 6.8. There we go. That's gonna be okay. And now what we'll do is we'll make this a, I believe it's 6.4 if I'm not mistaken. And then we're gonna offset inwards by, we said it was zero point 0.6. That's wall thickness, 0.6. And we're gonna bring this upwards by up to the face. And say, okay. So now, okay, we got our brick right there, which is looking good. And then, did I do fillets beneath? Yes, I did do a few fillets down there. And then what we're gonna do is here go to 3D model, then pattern, and we're gonna pattern that along this direction. And we'll do 3 and 8. And we'll say, okay. So very easily we got our brick. Now, the reason why I cleverly define it like that is because if I wanted to change any of these dimensions, then everything would update automatically. For instance, if I wanted to make this instead of 32, it's all multiples of 16, so 48 to have a 2 by 6 brick, then all I would need to go to extrusion 1, change that dimension, and then go to the rectangular pattern and instead of 4, specify that I want 6, and then go to that rectangular pattern and instead of and specify that I want 5 instead of just 3, as we see right here. But we got our brick, and I think it's looking quite decent, so we're gonna click here in Save, and I'm gonna call it Lego 2 by 4 brick. All right, so I was able to create just a second ago a copy of this brick, which I'm writing right there as B2. So what I'll do is I'll go here to fillet, and really I'm gonna just go here to all of those edges. I know it's not happy about it right now, but we know it's a fillet of zero point 0.1. So I'll click on that. However, you see I'm drawing that fillet there. I'm gonna bring this feature up there. Let me see if I can. Okay, it should have done that, but now in rectangular pattern, if I go to edit feature, I'm gonna add that. I'm gonna add that fillet as well, and I'll say okay. And see how now all of our bricks have the fillets right there. So that's good. So we're gonna use this one pretty much to make the drawing in a second. Well, we'll do first the assembly. Let me just select a few more edges as well since we're here. There we go. We're gonna leave those like that. I'll say okay. Yeah, we're gonna leave the bottom in the same way. And I'm gonna go here to body, which is, where are you? Body, solid bodies. I'm gonna color this properties. We're gonna make this red. By the way, this is the only one that I'm coloring because if I'm not mistaken, once we put this into an assembly, it will be fairly easy to actually modify the colors of all of these bricks. So stay tuned for that. So I can just draw them all gray, and that's completely fine. And then you color them on the assembly, which is something super useful, which means that I only have to make a singular 2x4. If I'm wrong, I might need to create multiple 2x4 copies with different colors. But I hope it's possible. So we'll take a look at that in just a second. But let me just first find red. I'll go here to okay, and boom. This is our Lego brick. I'm gonna go here to save. Looks kind of neat, doesn't it? Like to have the Lego brick like this. I wish the lines were also light black, but I actually don't mind the colors of our brick like that. So we'll save this. But now I'm gonna go here to new and I'll do an assembly. This is the first time that we're gonna be on this environment, and it's gonna prompt us to place stuff. So we have a bunch of tools in here. You can also draw stuff in an assembly. I generally don't like doing that. I like doing individual parts elsewhere, like we've done always, and then bringing them to this environment, and then you place them. So I go here to place. I click on place, and I'll choose the regular one, right, that we looked at in here, and I'll go to okay. So we bring our brick right there. Now, I don't like how it's looking like, I'm gonna click escape because otherwise it creates new copies. I don't like how it's looking like that, which is just a particular type of shadedness. If you go here to view, all the way to visual style, I'm gonna change this to shaded with edges, which is, the classic, what we're used to always. So we have this right here. And the first thing that I'll do is every time you bring your very first part to an assembly, you right click in here and you go to where it says grounded. So notice that right now there's like a little O right there. And look what happens when I click on grounded. That little O, not only is like fully shaded now, but now there's a pin. So this brick will act as our origin brick. Everything that we design will be with respect to this brick right here. So now let me go back to assemble. So what I'll do is I'll create a new part. I'll add a new part. Let's add another brick, for instance, here. So what can we do? Well, we're going to start building with Legos, and there's multiple things that we can do. Let me illustrate a few. For instance, the first thing to define a brick with respect to another brick is to define the three axes, to define its position relative to X, Y, and Z. And what do I mean? Is that, well, I want to make that face be flush with that face be flush with that face, and this face to be flush with that one. So to do that, I go here to where it says constraint, and there's multiple constraints you can do. It generally, it automatically detects the ones that you can do, but the one that I mean by flash, which is pretty much the one that we'll use the most in here, it's called this type of mate. But you can also define angles if you wanted to. You can make things tangent. I don't think we might do that with the Playmobil minifig later. And these two you can make like mirror stuff, symmetry. But in essence, I can go to that face. I can click on that face and you see how they automatically stick to each other. I'll say, let's click on apply. That way I can continue. If I click on OK, you're ending the command. But if you click on apply, you still have the command. I can go on that face, and see how it turns around because it's going for that option. I can go for this one right here, and that's exactly what we do. You see how that one is called mate, this one is called flush. I click on apply, and what about these two? Excellent. I click on OK. So now we got a fully defined Lego brick. You could have also done the following thing, which is something that we'll do potentially later on, which is Lego bricks, you can not only define them by their faces, also by the studs. So I can go here to it says joint. Joint is more when you want to do more mechanical stuff, things that are sliding, things that are rotating. And in this particular case, the one that we're interested on is this one that's called, well, if we do planar, well, if you do planar, it allows you to slide all around. But here we're going to do cylindrical. And what I choose is, for instance, say, I don't know, like that face right there, and yeah, I can select that right there, and I click on OK as an example, right? Now that brick disappeared. It's difficult to like see it. Let me see if I can like move it around, but it just went downstairs right there. Let me see if I can Control Z one more time. Let me do that again. Let me go to cylindrical. That was funny. There we go. But in essence, what it allows you to do is move this around only up and down along the axis of, so it's only concentrated on that axis. So these two circles are always concentric. But we don't want that because we might use this later on for some positioning purposes, but not now. Because now, if you go here, we want to start building this thing. This is going to be pretty complex. However, we're going to make use of symmetry because we're not going to build all of this stuff. In fact, at some point, I might speed up the video that way you don't get bored. But I'm going to, for instance, let me start by doing that road. So I'll draw, for instance, a row of 4 bricks. So now again, select these two, do Control C, Control B. And every time I paste, it remembers at least the already existing mates. So that's good. And now I'm gonna constrain that face and this face, and I'll say apply, then this face and this face. We'll do for flush, apply, and then that face and that face, and I'll say okay. So now we got a row of 4. But we know that this road, I've been looking at this Lego assembly for a while. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's a 8 studs wide, and it's a 4 bricks wide. So what we're gonna do is bring this stuff in here. We can try, for instance, doing the following thing. I can say, all right, I want to pattern all of these guys. Actually, select feature to pattern. Oh, let me see if I can do like that. And I want to pattern. Oh, I should also change the. Let me go here to tools for a second. Let me go here to millimeters and grams. Let's say, okay. Let me go back to assemble. Let me do pattern, just like that. And then really, I want to select my 4 components and suppose that I want 4. And I'm going to pattern by 16 because that's like the length of our system right there. And I'll click on OK. So now we got a full pattern of bricks so that there can be a road. Now, what we can do is the only problem of doing it this way is that, well, sometimes that selecting, you have to go very granular like that. However, I can go here to element 4 and let me see if I can go. I might need to go individually like this. There we go. Properties. Let's see. No, that's I properties. It's not really the one that I. Let's see, finish. Let's see if I can select them. Bodies. Okay, good. I can select them like this, and I can say that I want those ones to be blue. So we're gonna go for, let's see, blue. Blue. Is there? Okay, I kind of like that blue. It's a little bit too glossy. Maybe. What about light steel blue? No, that might be too. Actually, it's not too bad. I'm gonna select all of those guys. Oh, that's great. Okay, good. Now for finish, I'm gonna go back to bodies and I'm gonna select all of the ones here in the middle. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make that anodized black. Yeah, but that's too difficult to see. So maybe what about a gray? There we go. Okay, so now we got our road. So that doesn't look too bad at all. That's pretty nice. So we're gonna save this as I'm gonna call it an Inventor Tower Bridge Assembly. Tower Bridge Assembly. I click here in save. So now here's where the fun begins, because if I look back at this picture, and there's something I was also this is YouTube video that shows you a little bit the manufacturing of the bridge, which I'm gonna be looking at this video in just a second. But you realize is that there's a couple of hidden stuff, for instance, that they put bricks down there, and also how they build this tower. So what I'm gonna at least do now, I'm gonna show you how to make. We need to make a 2x2 brick, a 2x3 brick, and a 2x6 brick at least, and then we're gonna make a plate. So let me at least do that, and then I'll start speeding up this video for you not to get bored. But if we go back to here, let me go to this face here, right here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create multiple. I'm gonna go here to copy. I'm gonna create multiple copies of this thing. I create another copy. Let me see if I can create another one. I don't think it's okay. So we got that one right there. So I'm gonna call this one Lego 2x2 brick. I'm gonna go back in a second and edit that. Don't worry. Then we're gonna call this one the Lego 2x3 brick. And that's gonna be our 2x6. And we're gonna work with all of these ones in a little bit. Let me just change that to a 6. There we go. Let's go back to Inventor. So we got all of our bricks right there, and I'm gonna close. So I'll go here to open, and we're gonna do this, that, and that. I'll go here to open. So how do we edit these ones very quickly? So I see them all down there. So in the 2x2, very easily, we go here to extrusion 1. We go here to edit sketch, and it's pretty much shaving that by 2. So we go here to 16. Now, this is gonna complain in just a second because look at what it does. It creates a, in fact, all of this stuff is, so this doesn't look very correct. So in the rectangular pattern, a feature, we're just gonna make that a 2. And then on that one, edit feature, we'll just make it a 1. So we don't even, in fact, we don't even need this one. So I can just delete it. And that's how it looks like. So I'll save, that's the 2x2. Now for the 2x3, pretty much the same thing. Right here, edit sketch. Instead of 32, that should be 16 plus 8, so that should be 24. We're gonna click on finish. Then that rectangular pattern, we're gonna make that 3. And then for this one, edit feature, we are gonna make that 2. Oh, excellent. Very good. And now we save. And then for the 2x6, this is the one where we make this a little bit bigger. So edit sketch. So that should be 48. And you see how now we have an area that is completely flat. And so now we edit that feature. We make that a 6. And then we make that a 5. There we are. Now we got our 2x6 brick. And then we click on save. Very good. And lastly, one last thing that we got from here is the base plate, which we're gonna make blue. Now, I was doing the math, I have it written down right here, and that plate apparently is gonna be 64 by 20. That's gonna be a big plate. So the way to do that is gonna be the following way. So we'll go here to Inventor again. I'm gonna go to the standard 2x4, and let me make one more copy. And I'm gonna let me rename that, and I'm gonna call this 20 by 64 plate. And I click on, and I'll leave that. Then we go back to Inventor, and I'll go here to open, and we'll click on the 20 by 64 plate because it's very, very long. So there's a couple of things that we're not gonna need, like this, for instance. Actually, these two extrusions we won't need them, so I'll go here to delete. We'll still leave the Lego even though it might crash. You'll see why in just a second, but I think that's fine. And then As for the height, or say that we won't need the shell either, even though this is gonna complain in just a second. But let me actually get rid. Let me see what happens if I get rid of that for a second. Yes, you see how now the bottom circle is out there. It doesn't matter. That's fine. That's fine. And that edit feature, we are gonna make that a solid 1 millimeter, which is, I think it's actually even less. It's like 0.5. It's like super, it's like a super flat thing. And then we can make that rounded in a second. However, I'm gonna go here to sketch. We're gonna project geometry. That, very good. We're gonna, I don't wanna mirror that. I just wanna convert geometry. There we go. And we'll make that distance be 1.2. And we are gonna, yeah, zero point 0.5 is fine. So it's like barely noticeable. Right, if we made that 0.5, that height is 0.5. So we're gonna leave that like that. And now I'm gonna move this backwards. In that rectangular pattern, I'm gonna add extrusion 6 as well. That way you can see it right there. Good. So now we got at least a 2 by 4, very thin plate, but normally the plate is really 9.6, which is the height divided by 3. You know how 3 plates make 1 brick. But now in our original sketch, what we'll do is that, so we know that 32 is 4, which means that 8 is 1 brick. So we're gonna do 8 times 64. Yes, I know that's massive. And then we'll do 8 times 20 in this direction. I'm gonna go here to finish. Boom. And that explodes. But now if I edit this feature and I go here to 64 and I'll go here to 20. Oh, actually, I'm doing this the wrong way. This should be still 8. It's just that one that has to be 64. Yeah, you see how now this is taking a while to load. So let's give it a second for this to wait. I might need to suppress the little Lego, but we'll see. It depends on how much. Imagine adding the fillets. This is what I was meaning earlier, what I meant earlier. Let's wait for a second. Okay, so we got our plate right here. I hope it doesn't take, it's taking a second to load. Okay, so now the fact that that fillet it's taking a while, it's an indication that it's a very heavy file. Because if I add here the fillet right there, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, right, these plates have rounded edges, which this is why I'm adding the fillet in these corners. Go here. So I'm gonna use this in just a moment at the very end on the tower bridge assembly. If I'm realizing that it's making the model lag a lot, then I'll probably suppress the Lego bricks and like the Lego sign in there. Because I know that little feature at least it will cause a lot of trouble. Go here to when that's done, I'll click on OK. It looks kind of neat. At least I'm gonna save this in here, even though we're not gonna touch this for a while. But let's leave it like that. And now let's go over to our tire bridge assembly. But now we got our brick in here. So we can go here to place. And I'm gonna place our 2 by 6 right here, escape, and I can also like free rotate. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna rotate you around for a second. Oh, and I'm gonna leave it like that. But why am I doing that? Because now I'm gonna do a joint, and I want, for instance, this guy and that guy right there to be not rotational but cylindrical. And I'll say, okay. So at least I know that those two guys are concentric the way they should. And now, so you see how that's going to be like a little stud down there. So I'll go here to constrain and I'll say, all right, I want that face and that face to be flush like that. And that's not going to be enough. So what I'll probably do is I'll say, well, what if I want to also, let me see if I can do. I click on that face and that face. Would it break the mate? Let me just say, okay. No, that is exactly what I thought. Yeah, so that can still rotate. So probably what I'll do is I'll say, all right, what if I selected, let me just do a joint here for cylindrical, that circle and that circle. I'll say, okay. Very good. So now at least that is fully constrained down there. Good. So what we can do is do another pattern, where this is gonna go along that direction. We're gonna make 3 of them, and that's gonna go by 32. Very good, and I'll say okay. And now all 3 of these guys, actually I can click in here, we're gonna make them gray. Oh, I wanted to make the body. There we go. I'll say okay. Good. So now what I'm going to start doing is I'll speed up the video from here. That way you don't have to hear me narrate. But I'm going to essentially employ these techniques that I just showed you to make the tower bridge. So I hope you enjoy it from now onwards.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when we're living our dream. Everything is better when we stick together. Side by side, you and I gonna win forever. Let's party forever. We're the same, I'm like you, you're like me. We're all working in harmony. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when we're living our dream.
3, 2, 1, go. Have you heard the news? Everyone's talking. Life is good cause everything's awesome. Lost my job, that's a new opportunity. More free time for my awesome community. I feel more awesome than an awesome possum. Dip my body in chocolate frosting. 3 years later I shot the frosting. Smelling like a blossom, everything is awesome. Stepped in mud, got new brown shoes. It's awesome to win and it's awesome to lose. Awesome to lose. Awesome to lose. Awesome to lose.
Everything is better when we stick together. Side by side, you and I gonna win forever. Let's party forever. We're the same, I'm like you, you're like me. We're all working in harmony. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when we're living our dream.
Blue skies, bouncy springs. We just named 2 awesome things. A Nobel Prize, a piece of string. You know what's awesome? Everything. Dogs and fleas, allergies, a book of Greek antiquities, brand new pants, a very old vest. Awesome items are the best. Trees, frogs, clogs, they're awesome. Rocks, clocks, and socks, they're awesome. Figs and jigs and twigs, that's awesome. Everything you see or think or say is awesome. Like rain on a sunny day, like $1,000,000 that you're giving away, like a stray dog on the freeway. We'll fly. Whoa.
Cause we're on like a team,
Living inside a dream, you and me doing the thing, and we'll
fly.
unbelievable, super cool, outrageous, and amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, so incredible. Unbelievable, super cool, outrageous, and amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, so incredible. It's the credits, yeah, that's the best part. When the movie ends and the reading starts, you can keep your adventure and all that action. Cause the credits of the film are the main attraction. And don't even think about trying to leave, or you might miss a name, like Pam and Steve. Both incredible names, so let's stay in our seats and read a credible list of their incredible feats.
Cause we're on like a team,
Living inside a dream,
inside the dream.
you and me doing the thing, and we'll
Fly.
unbelievable, super cool, outrageous, and amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, so incredible. Unbelievable, super cool, outrageous, and amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, so incredible. And we're back, and still loving the credits. Can't wait to see the one about the person who edits. And even better than that is who edits the credits. I bet I'll never forget it, cause once I read it, then I read it. I'll go to the theater about 90 minutes late. Skip the whole dang movie, cause the credits are great. Now if you're gonna be featured on a movie song, the credits is the part that you wanna be on. Unbelievable, super cool, outrageous, and amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, so incredible.
Everything is super cool
Right now,
Everything is awesome here right now. Everything is super cool
right now,
Everything is awesome here
right now,
Everything is super cool
right now,
Everything is awesome here right now. Everything is super cool
right now,
Everything is awesome here right now.
It feels so right, I'm where I belong, cause I found my place, I found my place. What a ride, I knew I was strong, now I found my place, I found my place.
And I never knew I had this power inside. Yeah, that's me, double L-O-Y-D. My dad is bad, but yeah, we're still family. And they say the family keeps you safe from harm, but to gain a dad, I had to lose an arm. Come on, yeah. But just because you're different doesn't mean that you'll never make a difference. Oh, as long as you're with good friends, you can save the world. Cause we got the power that we never knew we had.
It feels so right, I'm where I belong, cause I found my place, I found my place. What a ride, I knew I was strong, now I found my place, I found my place.
Cause nothing you can do is gonna block my punch. I'ma finish this fight by lunch. That's me, the city destroyed. I see a shark and it's ninja. Go! Punch kick him in on trucks quick. Just me and my clique and our mechs look sick. Okay. It took a little time to forgive you, Dad. Okay. You know we owe it all to a giant cat. Wait, what?
Well, alrighty. So now this is it. This is the tower bridge assembly. It took a while to get here, but not really because of doing all of the patterning and putting the maze, but really because when we added the blue plate down there, which represents the water, where this bridge would be placed, that has so many details that it lags. It makes the assembly lag a lot. But now that we reached this point, we obviously want to save this. And then once we've saved it, there's a command that's called pack and go, which is something that we're going to use right here. If you go here to find, you go to save as, I'm going to go to this one, let's go pack and go. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the following. I'll say, okay, that's fine. But the reason is that this is gonna save everything into the same zip file. So in other words, after you save this into that file, into that folder, then you're gonna uncompress that file and then you'll be able to open it and it's gonna contain each one of the different parts that you've used to make this assembly. Because it's not just this assembly file, but all of the different child parts that you've used in it. So I'm gonna, yes, I'm gonna look in there and I'll say destination folder. Yes, I'll use that one right there. Alrighty, so it seems that it worked. I just had to like specify the correct file folder, but now this is it. So this is the tower bridge assembly, and now we're gonna continue in just a second with the engineering drawing of the Lego brick. See you in a second. Alrighty, so having done the brick and the Lego Tower Bridge assembly, it's now time to do the engineering drawing. And as we saw earlier, an engineering drawing looks roughly like this. This is a sheet that you would hand into someone with all of the relevant dimensions about that particular thing that you've done, so you'll be able to replicate it. In our case, replicate the CAD model. And I've realized there were a couple of details that were missing that we're going to be adding now in our own drawing, but we're going to try to essentially copy this stuff. And for that, we go here to Inventor, and we'll go here to File, and then we'll go here to New, and then Drawing, and I just click in Drawing for now. And it creates a blank template as the one that we can see in here. Now, this may or may not be exactly what you would want, but in my case it isn't because I'm more used to working with A4 type of paper. So what I do is I go here to where it says Sheet 1, I right click there, and I go to Edit Sheet, and it gives a variety of options right here. For instance, I could move the location of that box if I wanted, even though I kind of always like it in the bottom right corner. But in here in sheet size, I'll go to A4. If I go here to OK, it automatically changes. Now, this is not necessarily the box type that I want. Also, by the way, one thing that I would like to point out is that you have multiple options and details that you can go for in here. If I can go here for, and you want to say yes, you see this slightly changes. In fact, this is more what I want because it's a little bit smaller. But suppose I do not want the date, or maybe I want the date somewhere else. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first start by editing this box in here. So you go to MCA right there, you go to edit definition, and that's pretty much all defined with lines. This is as if it was just a 2D sketch. Um, what I'm gonna do is that I do not want this stuff in here. In fact, I'm gonna go to creation date. I'm gonna delete that, and I'm gonna delete that there as well. And I'm gonna make that a 0. Then this stuff in here, I'll make it a 1, and that stuff in here, I'll make it a 4.5. So then if I go to finish, you see that I'll say, yes, I want to save all of these details. You see all of this stuff, it has changed. But like maybe some of these details are not relevant or we want to change them. So what do we do? Well, I'm gonna go here to, again, do MCA, and I'm gonna edit the definition in here. And I'll say, all right, instead of author, I'm just gonna click there and I'll write Andy, because this is really, there's ways to modify these boxes automatically using, there's like a drop down menu, which I can show you. Actually, let me show you that first. And I'm gonna click here in finish. I can leave it like that. However, if I went here to MCA, field text, edit field text, and then you see you have all of these different fields outlined right there. But it's not really what I want, because I go here to where it says summary, and I could have changed stuff. I could have said, for instance, hello in there, and I click on OK, and see how it appears there. But I want to have more control than just what appears in that box. That's pretty good if you want to do something systematic. But in our case, I just want to do it wrong way. So instead, I'm gonna get rid of that, and I'm gonna call this the Lego 5 for Lego brick. And you have more control because I can say, all right, I want that to be 0.2 and I want that to be in the middle. So you see how it appears there. And don't worry about that stuff. And then we go here, I'm gonna make it exactly like that. So I'll say how to CAD almost anything. And we can increase the size of this to be 0.15 and be in the middle as well. Very good. And then drawing number, I'll make it session 5 is 5.1. You can also change stuff like font types. It's essentially the same stuff that we've used before when we were using text. Anywhere else? Actually, let me just go here. I might leave it as 5.1. I'll leave it like that. I would say it stays right there. Revision number, let's say 1. Sheet number 1 of 1. Alright, we're just doing this manually. That scale we'll leave it that way because we might use that scale should be fine. And then checked by Andy. There we go. Andy. And then we'll also write the same thing. And then maybe right here, I'm gonna go to where it says text. And I'll write today's date, which is 01/06. Oh, 25. I'll put it right there. So now if you're happy with that, you'll go to finish. I'll say yes. And all of these details should have been accordingly modified. In fact, maybe in Q&A, I might add Andy as well. But that's too many details, so maybe I might just modify this stuff again. I might delete. I'm gonna just put that right there. There we go. Finish. Okay, so now we got at least that base part in there, so we're not gonna touch that again. Maybe the scale is gonna appear in just a moment. But what we do is that now we start placing views. So normally, as I was explaining earlier, you have a variety of views. The top view, then a section view, then a side view. All of these ones are important in order to convey the pretty much all of the different parts of our drawing. We'll do a more exhaustive drawing afterwards when we work with the Playmobil assembly, but for now, we only need one sheet of drawing. I think that should be sufficient. However, you can always go here and add, if you want to, you can always add more sheets. You just click on the plus symbol in there, but I'm gonna leave it like that. So I'm gonna go here to base, and you see how, because I have the brick down there that's already open, that's why it brings this here. And I was playing around with this, and I think a 3:1 scale, actually 3.5, should do the trick. But I think I was at a 4 earlier. Was it 4? I'm gonna leave it at 4 tentatively. No, you know what? I'm gonna double click in here. I go back to 3.5 because we're gonna fill this up with a lot of things. We see how there's a couple of things that appear. Then also with style, I can also change like some stuff in here. This one is a red in there. However, I can also make it like completely transparent. You can have the raster view as well. Go here to display options. Well, I'm gonna leave it like that and say okay. Good. I actually hold on. Hidden lines removed. There we go. So I don't need, this is a good view if I wanted to have the isometric. So I'm gonna start bringing some stuff from here. So we got that base view in there. However, what I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna go here to sketch. I'm gonna draw, yes, I'm gonna draw a line that goes like that right in the middle of our drawing, it doesn't matter. I'll click here and finish. And then if we go to place views, we're gonna add one of our very first views, which is the section view. And I'm gonna click in there. And I'll say, okay. Oh, I'm gonna bring that downwards like that. So that's essentially if I had done a cut throughout the brick that was through the line that we just drew. So that's what we have right there. Now, I want to add a view of our Lego that is bottom like that. So the way to do that is as follows. We can either go for a base view, then if we were to, I think it's possible to find, right. No, I think the way to do that is as follows. So I would go here to either you can go to projected view or double click in here and you see how these little triangles appear. So I'm just gonna draw one like that and then you right click in, okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna right click in there. Actually, let me go to projected view from here. There we go. I right click and I say create. There we go. But now that one, the one that we created, I really don't want it because I already have a side view. So I'll go here and I'll delete it. Let me see where it says delete. There we go. But then I do not want to delete the dependent view, which is that one right there. So I'm gonna bring that one down over here. And I'm gonna leave it like that. Then as for that text in here, that's too big. So we're gonna make that 0.1. I'm gonna leave it like that. In fact, where did I leave the section AA? I don't even need the I don't even need the second line of this stuff. So I can just delete all entirely. There we go. I'm just gonna leave it right there. There we go. So what I was just doing a second ago was changing the shadedness of this stuff. Because I'm gonna unclick in there and I go, okay, and I'm gonna unclick in there. That way, I only want, the only view that I want shaded is the isometric view, which we're gonna have in a little bit later. Now, one last thing I'll add is another projected view from here all the way to the side. That way we have our brick. Let me right click on create. That way we have it right there. And finally, one last projected view that's gonna go from here. There we go. It's gonna be that guy right there. And I click on create. And this guy, I'm gonna bring it down there. However, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double click in there. And yes, I'm gonna give it that little shadiness button over there. Good. And that's just gonna stay in that corner for a while. There we go. So that's our isometric view of our brick. Now you see that things are starting to look a little bit cramped because that is in there. So I'm gonna move some stuff from here. Also that AA, I believe I'm gonna get rid of that. I'll say, okay, there we go. That way that's a little bit easier. And we're gonna, actually that's our base view. I'm gonna move some stuff all the way here. That, let me see if I can move that a yes. I'm gonna move you up there, and I'm gonna do the same thing right here. In fact, I could also delete the A's and just write them down myself using regular text. But since they come already with this stuff, I'll leave them there. And meanwhile, I'm gonna get that view. I'm gonna leave it down there. So that way it's all aligned, and then we're gonna move this all the way to the side. That way it's not too packed. Good. So this is looking mostly fine. Maybe this view, I can still move it a little bit more backwards, just like that. Okay, so this is looking fine. Maybe I think the views on that original Lego brick were a little bit smaller. In fact, I could make these things. Let me see if I make these 3 to 1 instead. I'm gonna make that 3 to 1 as well, and I'll change that as well too. Good. That way everything is 3 to 1 and there's no misunderstandings anywhere. Excellent. That's that in there. We got plenty of space. Okay, so now here's the fun part where we start adding nodes and we start adding dimensions to all of these things. Um, Perhaps the most important node that I'm going to add in a second is this one that goes right here, which says, well, that's actually one that I'm gonna go here to NCA, edit definition. Let me see if I can delete that line. And I'm gonna go here, go Control C, Control V, and I'm gonna write in here, note all units in millimeters. That's an important thing. That way, everybody knows that that's what we're working with. And we'll go 0.1, and we can change the size of this thing, and we're gonna leave it right there. We're gonna make that slightly bigger. Excellent. There we go. And I'll go for finish. Yes. Good. That way I don't have to worry about that later, but at least we know that that node is right there. Perfectly. So now we start adding dimensions. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna click here on D and I can go over to those 2 lines and you'll see how it's adding it nicely right there. You can also go here to where it says sketch, actually to annotate right here, and you also click on dimension and it will add, and you can add as you would. One thing to notice is 2 things. First, right now it's in millimeters. The way I got it to be in millimeters is by going to where it says tools, documents, headings, and I changed it to default ANSI millimeters right there. Another thing is that that's horizontal. And how I got that to be horizontal is that I went here to manage, then styles editor, and then where it says I have right here, so on default millimeters, which is the one that we're using right here, I went to where it says text, and that one, which is the height, I said, right, I want that instead to be laid out vertically, I want it to be always horizontal. And I'm gonna always change it such that it's like that. In fact, that is horizontal too. That seems horizontal, that seems horizontal, and I'm gonna make that horizontal as well. And I'll say save and close. Good. I want to leave that dimension like that. So then I go here to D, and we can continue adding more dimensions right there. In fact, you can also specify whether you want these to be 2 decimal places, or since we're here, I can also specify the tolerance. Because if this is manufactured and it's using some manufacturing tolerance from whatever tool that you have, you can say, right, maybe go up to 2 decimal places plus minus a certain amount that you are allowing. So we have that. And then what I'm going to draw is a couple of lines to dimension a couple of things. So I'll say, all right, D in here, and I'll specify that that's 4. I'll say, okay. Now let me see whether yes, I can move exactly. Oh boy. And I move that 4 right there. And then I'm going to do D as well. And I'm going to put a 4 right there as well. Boom. And I click on OK. And then what we can say is that, well, I'm gonna say 8 linear pattern. I'm gonna add that in a moment. Perhaps I'm gonna add another spacing in here that specifies that that's 8. Go for OK. And then another spacing right here that specifies that that's 8 as well. I'm gonna leave that right there. I'll go for OK. I'm gonna leave it there. Mm, good. Maybe I'll just move the A letter for a moment all the way to the side. That way it doesn't bother us. There we go. And that way this doesn't look as cramped in terms of space. So I'll have that 4 in there and place it. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. Okay, good. So at least you're able to tell that that's the spacing. So now we go to where it says annotate, and we're gonna do this version right here where I'm gonna click on that circle right there and I'll say, there we go. Let me just go do continue. I'll say ATX linear pattern from here to okay. Let me just look at this in here. Very good. Now, obviously, depending on where you are, let me just move. There we go. And I'm gonna leave that line right there. So at least it's clear that those are the dimensions that we are specifying for that one, and then it's easier to see. So now we can specify also like the Lego dimensions, and I'm gonna add that font right there. Perhaps as well, since we're here, I'm gonna add some text and I'll say that this is the top view. That way we have it nicely laid out in there. Then I can go here to Control C, Control V, and I'm gonna write in here. Yeah, we know that's the section A, so I'll go here and I'll write side view. Let's move it. There we go. And now Control V right here. Even though, yes, I think that's sufficient space. I might move this a little bit upwards like that, and I'll make that the bottom view. I click on OK. Good. Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit of space there. Well, that way it doesn't look too close to the line. There we go. There we go. And then finally, I'm gonna add in here another mark that says isometric view. Okay. That way it's saying uber clear where we are. Excellent. We have that right there. So maybe one last thing that I can add is here. All right, let's specify the distance between go here to sketch. Just gonna add a line. We're gonna make that a construction. Can I make that a construction? Center line. Okay, we'll leave it like that. And then we are gonna make another line that goes just like that. That will also be a center line. And what we're gonna do is say that I want that distance to be, what's that, 0.6? All right, let's say 0.65 as an example. And constrain those. I'll delete that line for a second. We're gonna draw another line that is parallel to that one, center line, and I'll make that distance be 0.665. There we go. And that's gonna remain as, at least for the Lego brick. There we go. Excellent. So we got that dimension right there. I'm gonna Let me see if I can. There we go. And now maybe I'll add one more note in terms of the protrusion of the Lego brick, which is something that I'm gonna say. So that was gonna be, oh, it's on the side view right there. So maybe I'll go here to, I'm gonna go back to D. There we go. Annotate. Oh, I should finish the sketch. There we go. Oh, now I see what was going on is that, and now I can annotate the dimension that I wanted in here. That's why that was what was going on. I'm gonna leave that like that. 65, so that's clear right there. And now, well, actually, that is wrong because what I want really is the distance between these two walls, but that's probably filleted right there. And leave that as okay. Good. And now what we can specify is the height of our brick, which is, okay, from here to there, it's 9.6. Then from here to there, it's 1.2. And then I wanna make it from here to there, it's 0.1. And you can specify there as well, Lego extrusion. Lego extrusion. That way we know exactly what that dimension is referring to. Very good. So I think we got most of those details right there. And then Lego Word, I'm gonna also specify that over here. Maybe add a note. Lego library type. And then we'll say use center lines to align text. Oh, lines, align text. Let me see if I can move this slightly towards here. So it's kind of an art to move. Oh, yeah. There we go. It's an art to draw to make a nice looking engineering drawing that properly conveys all the information that we want. So there we go. So I think on this front, this is mostly fine. I think what we're missing is the uniform fillets that I'm gonna add in just a second. So I'll say over here, I'll add a node, or maybe I can add a dimension to that guy. There we go. This is dimension. There we go. We have that point R. And I'll say uniform fillets. And I want these guys to be aligned right there. Very good. We got that in here. So our drawing is slowly coming together. If we got the appropriate heights. So we're gonna display, yes, I have to also specify the uniform wall thickness. I'll have that in there and also in there. So we'll go here to display this dimension where we'll say, well, we want that to be 0.4, okay. And then this right here to be 1.2. If I can, yes, there we are. 1.2 right there. And then now what we have to do is a similar thing to what we did earlier. Well, we're gonna go here to D. We specify that that's 4. We also specify that that's 4. I'll click on OK. I just move that line to place it right there. And then we'll place the exact same thing that we've done earlier. And then we say, continue. 8x linear. Oh, linear pattern. Okay. Is that what we had? Yes. We're gonna place it nicely over here. Very good. So we at least know that that's the height. Now the problem is that, yes, that's a linear pattern, but how big is this hole? So let's specify that dimension as well. So that's 2.4, at least now. That was I would say a mistake from last time. And then maybe another thing that we can specify is, I'm gonna do that right here. Maybe I might choose a different one. Um, Maybe from here. There's a, let me go here to continue. What I'm gonna write is, let me see if I have, no. What I'm gonna use it is with dimension. I don't want that. I'm gonna choose a different symbol. Let me see if I can specify. There we go. So it specifies that it's a hole that is going down there, and I'll put 120. Pocket. There we go. So at least that's like much easier to see. And we're gonna do the exact same thing with those guys right there. In fact, yes, maybe what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dimension. Let's see if I can. Hmm. Take that note in there, and I'm gonna write the exact same thing, high dimension value. Let's say 8.1 pocket. I click on OK. Let me move this over here. And this is a good point to also specify how big these are. And we can say that that is a uniform wall thickness. There we go. It will be too good. Oh, there we go. 0.6 right there. Excellent. Okay, so we got that. I'm gonna start saving this for a second. Our bridge drawing right here. Very good. So at least we know the dimension of this stuff. Here, what we do not know yet is where is it placed. So we're gonna also dimension already. We're gonna specify that that's supposed to be 8 millimeters. Place that right here as well. It's a little bit of a mess of dimensions, as you can start to tell. Right here. Wait. I'm gonna leave this right here, and then I'm gonna add a couple more dimensions in just a second. So I'm gonna add this one to here, and I'm gonna, no, it's not the one that I wanted. There we go. So that's gonna be 8 as well. I'm gonna specify that right here. And so now what I'm gonna finish doing is a couple of, let me see if I can specify also pocket in there. So I'm gonna click here on D. Let me see. I think this should be clear enough. I'm gonna look it to see whether there's anything else that is missing from. Oh yes, very important one that is a by free linear pattern. So I'm gonna go here to text, and I'm gonna go here to continue. Right click, and I'll say 3x linear pattern. Say okay. What I wonder is whether I could potentially. Oh, there we go. I like how that's looking. That way it looks a little bit pretty. And I'm gonna move it like that. Excellent. All right, so we got 8x, 3x, all of those dimensions right there. I think it looks fairly well annotated with all of these different things. And one last thing, which is the uniform wall thickness. And I think that might actually be the last feature that we have to add. So I'm gonna click on D and say that that's gonna be 1.2. And we're gonna move that in here, and I'll write down there uniform wall thickness. Click on OK. Is that, oh, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring that down like that. Excellent. Now the problem is that it looks a little bit too thick, that stuff. So maybe I might get rid of that. I'll say okay. So that is 1.2. In fact, there we go. Okay. Let's leave that like that. There we go. And I'm gonna just copy that right there, and I'll write in here uniform wall thickness and say okay. Excellent. And I'm gonna leave that like that. Could I leave it on the side? Yes, I like it better like that. Okay, so this is looking quite good. So let's save this for a second. And now that we reach this point, I think we're ready to do the very last step, which is create a PDF out of this. So we go there to File. I'm gonna go to where it says Save As, and let me, no, actually export. There we go, as a PDF. So let's, yeah, so we're using the B2 version of this stuff. I'll go here to Save. So now let's see what I created. So I'm gonna go over to Inventor, and let's see, yes, our PDF right there. And voila, this is your engineering drawing of your Lego brick. And I think this should hopefully rectify some of the mistakes that we recognized earlier. But if you do find any, please let me know and we'll modify them. So now we're gonna continue in just a second with the Playmobil minifigure. And now, to conclude today's session 5, we're going to put everything that we've learned today, how to make assemblies and how to make engineering drawings, to make one single object, which is, let me show you right here, the Playmobil minifigure. In fact, I have one right now with me, and I'm going to be using a combination of the pictures that we have right here, where we see the schematic, and here some of the minifigs, how they look like, and here a wooden one, which overall shows pretty nicely the overall dimensions of the figure to make it. And then so we're gonna make every single piece. In fact, we'll do the legs as one piece, then each arm as one piece, every including we'll also, for simplicity today, we'll also make the arm and the hand as a single piece as well. The torso and the body will be a single piece, and then the face with the hair another one. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, just to keep it simple. But then we'll make an assembly out of that. So this is actually some of these pieces. They might seem fairly simple to do, however, it will have us using loft, so not necessarily trivial. Make an assembly, then we'll make a drawing where we're going to display each one of the different components of the minifigure. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go down to Inventor. I'm gonna start making a sketch of this thing where my general approach will be to bring that picture that shows the schematic and try to sketch it out. and we're gonna build it up from there, each one of those 5 pieces. But I'll probably speed it up from here, and I'll come back when it's time to do the assembly. Alrighty, so now we got our minifigure fully CADed in here. I think it looks pretty decent in terms of the details. I had my own minifigure before, and I'm looking at this one right now. In fact, I have it right here, this little astronaut of sorts. And I think they look pretty similar, at least this one mostly granular. It ended up taking a fair bit of time, but I'm satisfied with the details. In terms of the constraints, you see there's not very many. It's just that we used one to make, this flash with that in there. And then they're mostly rotational mates for the legs, for the arms, and you can see how you can move everything around. You can leave it like that, for instance. So it's mostly fine. You can post it, for instance, you can bring the legs up and down. So all of the files should be available now on the GitHub site. So you can take a look at that and download this and just play around, or make your own different fidelity models or models of your play model figure. You can also change maybe the MIT logo. You could add whichever logo that you want, make the shirt different, change the colors, but at least now you got the baseline. What we're gonna do now is perhaps a very fun part of this, which is, well, now trying to make a drawing of this assembly. That is actually not as trivial, but I think it's also not too difficult to do. So we got this bad boy in here, and instead of going straight into drawing and bringing that, what I want to do is an exploded view. The objective of doing this is that you're gonna have your figure, and since this is an assembly, you can show pretty much how it's coming together. Doing that with the tower bridge assembly that we've done earlier would be very complicated given the number of parts that you would have. Meanwhile, with this, because it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts, it's very simple to do. In fact, like the face with the hair, it's the same part, so that makes things a little bit easier. So what we're gonna do is go here to File, then all the way to New, and I'm gonna click in here where it says Presentation, and I'll go here to Create, and I'll say yes, open, that's fine. And here you got a storyboards panel. I'm gonna tell you what it does in a minute. But for now, I'm just gonna zoom out for a second. This is our minifigure. I'll go here to view, to visual style, to shade with edges. That way it's with the usual, shaded with edges style. I don't like it whenever it removes the edges because it's difficult to see properly. And what we'll click on is on this button in there that's called Tweak Components. In essence, Tweak Components, it will allow you to start to break this assembly apart. By the way, if you go here to Scene, Playmobil Assembly, you see all of our pieces in there. Now, I click on Tweak Components in the face, and then, boom, I bring it up, and it allows you here to say, all right, how much distance do you want to give it? I say 0.5 as an example. And I say, okay. And then if you go here to tweaks, you see it appears there, and you can edit the tweak as you wish. So you got that right there. I think it looks okay. What about tweak component? This one right there. And I'm gonna bring that down maybe by negative 1.5. And I'll say good. Now I can click on two at the same time by hitting the control key. Then go to tweak components, and I'm gonna bring this out by maybe 1. There we go. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing over here. The components, also 1. Did it? Yes, it went. And now what I can do is click here and tweak components, and we're gonna bring that down like that. And I say, okay. And the same thing with this one. I'll bring it down about the same distance. Very good. And I click OK. Yes. So it's approximately, so I'm gonna edit that one. I'll make that 0.65. Then, and I'll say okay. Then I'll click, oh, did I click? No, I didn't. 0.65, and then click the green check mark. Otherwise, this is not gonna work. Edit tweak 0.65. That way it's all fully symmetrical, right? And then that edit tweak 0.15. Why not? And then the other guy, we're gonna add an additional tweak 0.15. And I'll click on OK. So this is pretty much, you can see how our assembly is coming together. So you look at all of these lines and see, all right, this is the way this would be built. So where we'll click right now is in this button right there that's called New Snapshot View. We'll save that for a second. I'm gonna tell you because this is you get a snapshot of what we're seeing right here, this view of the Playmobil minifigure, and this is what we're gonna bring in just a minute over to the drawing. Now, I'm not gonna go into many details about this stuff, but this is called the storyboards panel. It's not included in today's session because otherwise it would be too long, but it's related to how to make animations of this stuff. Because if I click on go, you see that very slowly it's starting to dissimilar thing. Now, what I could do is instead I can increase this stuff, and all of these different marks right there, they correspond to each one of our components. So I can just bring all of this stuff here right now. There we go. I'm gonna bring them like that and look at what it does right there. So at least it's expanding all at the same time perfectly. It's kind of neat. And then if you wanted to save it, you could go here to video and say, all right, this is pretty much what you want, and you can play around with some of these things. And I think this is quite interesting. Again, something to explore maybe at your own leisure. But what we're gonna do is create the drawing view. Yes, okay, I'll save this stuff. Why not? Okay. And now we're gonna do a drawing. I'll go here to create. And it already recognizes that that is the snapshot view that we had earlier. And I'll say, yes, I think that's fine. I'll click on, okay, we'll leave it there. But now I think it's much easier to have a drawing that looks like a portrait instead of horizontal like this. So we're gonna go here to sheet one. I'm gonna go to edit sheet. And we'll go here to portrait and we'll go to our friend A4. And I'll go here to okay. And then maybe instead of that one, no, that's fine. Yes, that's fine. Let me see one here. Yeah, I'm gonna change it to that. There we go. So I prefer that view right there. So I'm gonna bring our minifigure in here. That's scale 1:1. And what I can do now is go over to base view. And I'm gonna bring right here. Let's see if I have it. This so that IPN is a presentation, IAM is the assembly. So I go here to open, and I'm gonna bring our little guy right here because I wanna have this one in the corner. So I'm double clicking here. I give it 1:1. I want to show it with all the colors right there. Maybe that might be too big. So what I might end up doing is let's see if I do scale 2:3. And the same thing in here. 2:3. Very good. Place our minifigure right here in the corner. That way it's easy to see that, all right, that's how it would look like fully assembled. And this is our figure. Well, what I could actually do is, well, I can bring this one to the full scale. Very good. Just like that. And the reason why we're doing this is because now I'm gonna now edit this sheet as we did last time. So I'm gonna go over to field text. Edit, actually, hold on. We're gonna edit definition. So we're gonna do the exact same stuff as we did before. I'm gonna delete some of these. Delete, 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 delete. That we're gonna make 0. That we're gonna make 5. We're gonna make 1. Then, in fact, let me see if I can. I'm gonna try and open our previous drawing. That way I can copy it exactly like we had it before. So Andy, and there, okay. Let's go over to, we're just gonna put the details in here. So, all right, so there we go. I just edited this stuff. And I also realized while putting the date in here, which I might move in just a second, that in our Lego brick we put 2025. I guess I'm still stuck in the past. So this one is closed. So I'm going to update that later, but I'm going to just modify one last thing in here. I'm going to edit definition, and I'm going to move actually that right there to the middle. Very good, at least the date is right there, very good. So now we can do something very fun because we don't really have to add a lot of details in here. It's really going here to, I'm gonna go to actually annotate right there. And you can add a parts list or you can make custom tables too. For instance, I could go here to table and I can say, right, how big of a table I would want, or I could just make it this way. For instance, if I clicked on part list, you can say, let me just select view. I will do that one. Let me say, okay. I can just, let me just drop it in here. It would look like this. And I do not, and it allows you to like see it right there. And let me see if I can edit this table. Second, edit parts list. You can add like more details in there as you wish. I think I like it the way it looks like right there. This is pretty simple, or you could have created like your own table. For instance, I'm gonna leave it like that. But now what I'd like to do is go here to where it says balloons. Where are you? Right here. Very good. I can say, all right, I'm gonna click like this. Let me just go here to continue. Very good. I'm gonna go to balloon. Let me see if there's a way I wanna do. Oh, actually, let me see what happens if I do out the balloon. No, I'll do it myself. I'm just gonna add a few balloons in here. And now that we know what each one of these numbers represent, then I can go here to do our parts list. In fact, I'm gonna make this table way smaller. I can edit this stuff. Let me just go edit parts list. And now I can say, all right, what does each one of these numbers represent? So I know that 1 represents the torso. So body. Then Playmobil 2 represents legs. Then Playmobil 3 represents arm. Then Playmobil 4 represents hands. Playmobil 5 represents head. I go do okay. I realize that one right there. I'm gonna delete that for a second. We're gonna add a balloon that goes like that. Very good. Continue. Excellent. At least you got all of the numbers. So now I'm gonna move this table. Oh, can I move it? There we go. I was just adjusting the table for a second, but this is our drawing. So now I'm gonna click here and save. I'll save our assembly drawing in here. I click on OK. And now, just like before, we can create a PDF of this thing. So here to File, Export as PDF, and I'll click on Save. And now we look at what we've done. I'll go here to Inventor, and we should be able to find this right here. And we got our full assembly of our minifigure right there with the bit of materials listed below. I mean, this looks pretty neat. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I think this is a pretty exhaustive view on, well, how to make assemblies, and now how to make an exploded view as we saw here, and how to make drawings in general. So a lot of things. So now stay tuned for session 6 to wrap up the How to CAD series IAP 2026. Thank you very much and see you next time.